Welcome, y'all.
Hey, Sherry.
Hey, Tammy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing great.
Awesome.
Even if it is 12 degrees below zero.
You know, it could be 30 degrees in Louisiana and we feel like it's severe winter alerts. And,
I mean, it's really like in the 50s right now.
Yeah.
But it hurts.
It hurts my hands and my toes. But I'm the one complaining in the summer that it's too hot. So
that's why I keep my mouth shut about the hot. It's because I don't feel like I can do both.
I do. I complain about both. I'm a high maintenance bitch. Colin is behind the camera today, switching for us. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you.
Oh, he leaned in. Did you? But I don't think you had it on yourself when you leaned in. Switch the camera
again.
Now you can lean.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, Colin.
You're my what to Joe Rogan's who?
Jamie.
You're my Jamie to Joe Rogan's Jamie. Yeah, you're my Jamie. You're my Colin to Jamie. Mm-hmm. All right. So you brought us some updated cases this time, correct?
Yes, because I did y'all dirty last time and I gave you one that wasn't solved.
I feel like we know who did it.
I think it's him.
Yeah. Cox, right? Was his name?
Yeah, Cox.
All right. Well, whenever you're ready, tell us.
Okay. So, since I did you dirty last time, I'm going to bring you a group of cases that got solved this year.
2023.
2023. Or close enough.
So these are cold cases that got solved?
Yes. And some of them are super freaking old.
Really?
Yes. Like things that those of us who do true crime, we get on message boards. Back in the day when you had forums that you could go on to.
Yes.
Now it's Reddit, but
right.
We've always discussed a handful of these.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to start out with one of the oldest ones.
Okay.
The Boy in the Box.
I do know that I've heard of the Boy in the Box.
Well, we know who he is now.
He was very young, right?
Very young. He was a 4-year-old child.
And found where?
In Philadelphia in February of 1957.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming through DNA we have determined who he is?
We were able to find out who this boy was. Back in 1957, he was nude, wrapped in a blanket, and placed in a bassinet box that came from J.C. Penney's in Philadelphia, just kind of out there. Actually, a couple of people found him before he was found and reported.
Really?
Yeah, one guy was out trapping rabbits, but I think he was, he didn't have a license or something.
So he didn't want to get caught.
Another guy saw a rabbit run into the woods. He said he was just chasing the rabbit. I'm thinking he was also trying to hunt him.
Yeah.
He didn't want to get involved. So finally, somebody saw the little baby and reported it.
Bless his little heart.
But we do know that his name is Joseph Augustus Zarelli.
And was he ever reported missing by someone?
No. And his family was actually a fairly prominent family in, in that area.
Yeah.
And, okay, his mom and dad would definitely be dead. This is 60 years ago.
Yeah.
70 years ago. So,
yeah.
I mean, they would definitely be dead by now. And
right.
I think that's where we pretty much have hung it that mom and dad did him in.
Because, I mean, that makes sense because otherwise, they would report him missing.
Exactly. And he was malnourished and he had bruises and injuries to him. But whoever put him there did wash him, cut his hair, wrap him up, and then...
Someone that loved him.
So I have a feeling one of the parents was really awful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone somewhere will dig deep into that whole thing and come back and tell us about the awful parents. Philadelphia
still is working that homicide.
Really?
Yeah. That gives you kind of a good feeling that they're not just going to leave this kid, even though nobody would care about him anymore.
Yeah.
They're not just going to leave his questions unanswered.
I'm curious. Okay, will you keep an eye on that, out for that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
All right.
I remember the boy in the box. Yeah.
And a lot of cold cases are solved now with genetic genealogy, which is kind of part science and part solving logic puzzles.
Yeah.
Because, if they've got 2% of DNA in common with this person, you got to work backward and forward and cut everything off. But there is another newish technology out there
Okay.
that is not happening in the lab side. It's happening on the collection side. It's called the MVAC.
All right.
Okay. And standard DNA collection relies on a swab.
Yeah.
Cotton swab. You just rub it, across the items, send it in, see how many markers you can get. We've gotten really good at very little DNA giving you a very
Good
big
profile.
Yeah. Yeah. Back whenever it first was coming out,
Yeah. You had to have a lot.
you had to have a lot.
Now they can do it with trace.
Right. But this even gives you a better opportunity to get that trace DNA.
Okay.
They wet down the item, and it's a small vacuum appliance that will vacuum up everything. So if you've got something that's bumpy, like a rock, or you've got a piece of rope, or you've got some fabric,
The vacuum will help get you in the nooks and crannies.
get you in the nooks and crannies and get it out. And this is a case that this helped with.
The boy in the box?
This next one.
Oh, the next one. Okay. Do you, just to go back for a second, do you know with the boy in the box, like, did they have to exhume him, or had they kept something DNA related?
They exhumed him several years ago.
Okay. So at that point, yeah.
Once they knew that DNA was a thing.
Gotcha.
But in May of 76, a handless body of an older woman is found in Grand Bay, Alabama, which is in Mobile County.
All right.
So very, very south Alabama, on the Gulf. She had no teeth, and no missing persons report was filed that would line up with the victim.
And they couldn't do fingerprints or dental match. No hands, no teeth.
Yeah. And there was suspicion on who had done the killing, as this guy Henderson James Williams had killed his own mama a few years later and disposed of her in the same way.
Okay.
His mama wouldn't give him access to her bank account. And so he killed her pretty much the same way. But they didn't know who the victim was. They couldn't line it up. He had been convicted of another murder years earlier and had only served 28 days for it.
Wow.
I did not go into depth. I didn't go find out
Why. Yeah. We'll call it a technicality because that's usually.
Yeah. Or, she was a woman of the night and they just decided, 28 days is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, we are talking, I think, early 70s was whenever he did that one. Okay. So let's fast forward from 76 to 2021, and the Mobile County Sheriff's Office reached out to Moxie Forensic Investigations.
It's a private organization.
A private organization. They did a lot of genetic genealogy.
All right.
Unfortunately, they found that the body had been cremated back in 1979, way before DNA was a thing.
Right.
And,
if they didn't know who it was, that
nobody had come forward. It'd been 3 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. But then the investigators found a dental mold in the evidence locker. Okay, like taking teeth impressions.
Yeah, but she had no teeth?
She had no teeth.
Okay.
That somebody just went above and beyond and took this mold. I guess they thought maybe the dentist that pulled her teeth to begin with
would maybe have a... I was thinking the killer removed the teeth, but that doesn't sound like that's the case.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because removing the teeth would at least have left
holes
and broken bits. Because you're not going to get
the whole tooth.
The whole tooth. Okay. But someone had done this. They had gotten this. So the mold was sent off to Utah to a facility that had the MVAC
Ah, so we got some skin cells there.
and some saliva. Yeah, all of that.
All right.
Yeah. And there was only her DNA on it. It hadn't been corrupted. Nothing else had happened. There was only one person. Moxie went through with the genetic genealogy,
Yeah.
and they found her relatives.
Oh.
And they were able to link her. She at least had one family member who was still with us, who actually loved her. But she was from the Pacific Northwest, so nobody would have linked her to Southern Alabama.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So they talked to the one surviving relative.
And were able to tell him what had happened to his aunt.
So it was a he that they talked to. And he knew her name, etc.
Yeah.
Had a relationship with her.
Yeah, he used to spend summers at her property growing up.
Did he say she went missing and we didn't know what happened to her?
Yeah, and see she had gone through a divorce and kind of went traveling around a little bit after the divorce.
And back then, you're going to lose contact with people. Phone numbers change.
Yeah, in the 70s, absolutely. And long distance phone calls were considered a really weird thing.
Right.
So if you weren't a letter writer, you didn't hear from somebody ever again.
Right. Huh.
Yeah, so that one was kind of cool. And I'm hoping that we're going to get a lot more because of this new technology. There are so many times that I'll read a case that's unsolved, and there were bindings used, and they were like, no usable DNA on the bindings. Well, I can guarantee you it's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Some skin cells came off when you were tying those knots.
And, you know, we know this from loving true crime. It's hard to solve a case if you don't know who the victim is. It's hard because you start with the people who are closest to that person and work your way out. So if you don't even know who it is, you can't even start with a suspect.
And old Williams is in jail anyway, life sentence in Mississippi for killing his mom.
Okay.
So I imagine pushing forward with a conviction on this would have been stupid.
Did you hear or read anything that would have linked him to her in any way? The woman who was unidentified? Like, were they neighbors or?
No, not neighbors. And she was only like traveling.
Okay. So he could have just run across her.
Just run across her. They could have tried to party together.
Who knows?
Who knows? But his MO was so specific. I didn't say everything about how her body was found, but her arms, after the hands were removed, were wrapped in plastic. She was placed in a body of water, face down. And he had done the same thing to his mom. And there was another victim in the area that the same thing had happened to. Okay. And he's kind of
linked to that
as well. But that one, there was some link between him and her.
Okay.
So he was probably a serial killer.
Yeah. There could be others.
And those were just 3 that were disposed of in the same precise way. And MO isn't, I mean, it's a fingerprint.
Right.
Okay. And then we have, I have another case that is a big one for true crime buffs. It's the lady in the dunes.
That one sounds familiar.
It should. Back in July of 1974, a woman was found in the dunes in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And she was staged as if she was just sunbathing. And her hands were kind of pushed down in the sand. She didn't have any hands.
Oh.
She was killed good. They cut off her hands. They busted her teeth, a lot of them.
Oh.
And I'm pretty sure that the implement that they used to kill her with, I don't know if you remember these, but in a pack of your average soldier, there was this little foldable shovel. Yeah. That's what they think was used.
To kill her?
To kill her.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that all of us had back in the day.
Definitely.
But in late 2022, she was finally identified as Ruth Marie Terry. And then finally this year in August, her husband was named as the murderer.
Wow. Is he still alive?
He had already died.
He had already died. Okay.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's knowledge. This one was huge. There was some kind of evidence that she had been an extra on the movie Jaws.
Oh, okay.
You remember that one
Of
now?
course, yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, I just couldn't even imagine that nobody knew who she was. Her face was everywhere. They had some pretty good sketches of her.
Yeah.
And whenever we look at the sketch plus the actual photograph of the found woman, they were pretty good sketches.
Yeah.
And I think she had red hair or strawberry blonde hair. It was this was not somebody that you, if you saw the sketch, you would know. So I don't know what happened to her family.
So we don't have any info on that. Just her name and her husband's the one
And
that
we have a little bit of, kind of how her life was falling apart ahead of this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think this guy was her second husband, and obviously he was a tool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. Killed her with a travel shovel.
Yeah, while laying out on the beach.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that one is one there's a lot written about.
Gotcha.
And it's actually kind of fun to go back and read the articles from before she was found, before she was identified.
Yeah.
Because the theories were all over the place.
Oh, and now that they know who she is, the theories, you can kind of, some of them are probably laughable, huh?
Yeah, a lot of them were laughable. Okay, so that's another one solved.
Okay.
It's got to make you feel a little better after what I
Yes.
did to y'all last time.
Yes.
Okay, and then we have another one that was solved not through technology, but I think old-fashioned guilt.
Whoa.
Yes. So in August of 2023, Michael Ermer, he's 69 years old, walked in to a Portland, Oregon FBI office and just confessed to a 1979 murder.
Whoa.
In Boston.
Okay.
This guy met a girl at an ice skating rink, had some laughs, brought her home, killed her with a hammer.
My gosh.
Look, that is literally my most feared way of dying.
Is it?
Yeah,
Hammer.
a hammer.
Yeah. Painful.
I've hit my thumb.
Yeah.
And the things that come out of my face after that, I mean, getting hit in the head with a hammer.
I can't imagine.
Gosh. And so, he bashed her in the head, raped her, and then ran to New York the next day.
And did he leave her in his apartment?
In her apartment.
In her apartment. Okay.
And so she's found. He's not from there. She's not actually from there. I don't know if she was a student
They
or
had
what.
only known each other a day.
Yeah, just a few hours.
Yeah, a few hours.
And so someone else actually was arrested and tried for this, but was acquitted, fortunately.
Wow.
But also kind of unfortunately for the case, because a lot of times if a prosecutor has tried you, he doesn't want to look anywhere else.
Right.
Because that's
He
the same
thinks
as
you're
saying,
I made a mistake.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think we're going to hear more about this John Michael Ermer guy.
So I'm assuming he's still alive since he just did this.
He just did this. So far, he hasn't even gone to trial on the Boston case.
But he's in jail?
He's in jail. He's been arraigned. He's no bond.
Okay.
He did spend in the interim 30 years in jail for armed robbery and murder of a drug dealer.
Okay.
Okay.
He's not a good guy.
He's not a good guy, but he says he's got more bodies on him.
Oh.
And he's confessing to them. They're kind of playing that close to their vest, but right now they're working on one that they said is down south.
Okay.
Okay. So they're going to go through his list one at a time and see if it stands up.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's going to be interesting. So I'm going to keep an eye on this guy for sure.
Definitely. That might turn into a whole
series.
Yes.
We're going to have to do what?
A two-parter.
A 2-parter, 5-parter, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people he confessed to.
Wow. So he's alive. He's confessed.
Alive.
He's in jail.
He just walked into the only thing, if it's not guilt, maybe he's almost 70 and he spent a good chunk of his earning years in prison.
Maybe he can't not live in prison. Maybe
that's it.
He has to be institutionalized.
Yeah, maybe he's too old to work a day labor job, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to go where I can get fed and housed.
3 hots and a cot.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a different way that one got solved this year.
What was his name again?
John Michael Ermer.
All right. We'll keep our ears peeled.
Yeah.
Because more on him.
His arraignment just happened in, I think, October. So this is a real developing case.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I got to see if some of these other things that we've had on the message boards over the years are bodies that can be linked to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very interesting.
Oh, yeah. And then, y'all remember how different correctional institutes will put out playing cards?
Yes. With like
Cold
serial
cases.
killer. Oh, cold cases.
Yeah.
I know I've seen like serial killer playing cards. So tell me about what you're talking about.
This goes to prisons.
Okay.
They put victims on the playing cards and give the playing cards to the inmates with contact numbers about if you know anything, get in touch with us.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did something come from that?
Yes. Yes. And this one was in Kansas.
Because I feel like that would kind of be, I don't know. Part of me says it's a great idea, and part of me is like, you're giving criminals pictures of victims to kind of, I don't know, relive their fantasies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I imagine there's some of that, but...
Yeah, but if it can help solve a case.
And it's helped solved a few now.
All right.
Because, I'm sitting here in jail, and I'm looking at this girl's face and look at her smile, and I know that Joe Bob, 4 cells down, has been bragging about this killing for the last 10 years, and nobody got him, and her mama needs something.
Right.
Well, that happened in this case. Let's see. 69-year-old Ernie Ortiz was shot and killed outside of the restaurant that he and his family owned in Kansas, Garden City, Kansas. And investigators had a suspect, but it turned out not to be the same. They dismissed charges, as in, not we don't have enough evidence. It was we have evidence that clears you. You're not our guy. And so they put him on the playing card. His family was really adamant. Y'all have got to do something. They stayed with it. And if there's anything, even if it's about genetic testing, because that costs money.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a case in your family, keep talking about it, because that funding has to be sent to it if it's more DNA testing. This kind of thing. They talked about it. This killing wasn't one of those that was super cool.
Yeah.
But they got it on the playing card.
Right.
And an inmate called in. And it was a woman who did the killing.
Really?
Samantha Jo Smith is charged with multiple crimes related to Ortiz's homicide, and she was arrested in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in September.
So she wasn't even in prison when the person from jail called to make the tip.
Yeah.
Huh. No doubt. That's crazy.
That is crazy. And that solved a 4-year-old cold case.
That's crazy. That's impressive.
That is.
That gives me
kind of hope in those playing card things.
Yes, that gives me hope in that.
Almost every state's DOC does one, but oh, and I guess I better tell you what card he was. He was the 5 of Hearts in Kansas.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
And they solved it.
They
Wow.
solved it. That's awesome.
I agree. 100%.
Yeah, I didn't want to just bring you the same thing over and over and over again on how they got to something.
Yeah, definitely.
Because all of this matters.
Definitely.
Confessions matter. I looked up a few where it was tips from, there was one where a woman was dying and her ex-boyfriend had done it. And she didn't want to go to hell with that on her conscience. So she called the cops in on her deathbed, like with an oxygen tank, and said, hey, this is what happened. This is what I know about it. And the guy got arrested.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And here is the very biggest cold case that got solved this year.
All right.
The Gilgo Beach case. Most of us outside of New York call it the Long Island serial killer case.
I was going to ask you, is that the beach where they found the bodies?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, so 11 bodies were found.
Yes.
Between 2010 and 2011.
And it was like a marshy area, right?
Yeah, because it was, it's literally a beach on an island. Mm-hmm. So, and really, in my opinion, Shannon Gilbert is the biggest hero in this case. She's one of the bodies that were in the marsh. She was a prostitute who went to work a party in the area.
All right.
She took off running from the party, panicked, saying somebody was trying to kill her. Really, we kind of think it was a drug-induced paranoia. And, there are a lot of drugs that'll push you over into that kind of schizophrenic almost behavior. She ran from her driver. She ran from everybody. She didn't know where she was.
This is all coming back to me, yeah.
Yeah. Well, in looking for her in the marsh,
that's when they
discovered the bodies. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, hats off to Shannon. It's a shame that her life ended in this, but
it opened up a bigger case.
And so, and this is where kind of what we do really drove this case. Podcasts, documentaries really kept us in the public eye. And there were podcasts that focused on, hey, this case isn't getting solved because of corruption in the police department and in local politics.
Wow.
So now the original police chief, who happened to be at the sex party where the prostitute ran away from.
Well, okay.
He is now serving time.
Wow.
Yeah.
But we don't think he's the killer.
No, we don't think he's the killer. Anyhow, he may have killed somebody at some point to shut him up because some of the things he did weren't but a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yeah. But we don't think he's
he's not the Gilgo Beach killer. And I'm using that term because Long Island is huge and there's a lot of people on there and they're like, no.
Yeah,
Tiny
it's just this one little place.
One little place. Yeah. And, but anyhow, in July of 2023, Rex Heuermann from Massapequa Park in Long Island, which is right there at that beach, was arrested in New York and charged in 3 of the murders.
Well, if they can link him to 3, I'm sure he's probably did all of them.
Very likely. They didn't link him. They've only listed him as the prime suspect in the 4th out of the Gilgo 4. There were 4 bodies.
Okay.
They were wrapped precisely the same way and put very close together. And I mean, like with the same fabric, the same roll of fabric.
Okay.
So there's no way around it.
And they arrest him.
They arrested him in July.
And what did he plead?
He has pled not guilty.
Okay.
This was a DNA solving situation.
Oh, okay.
And cell phone solving situation.
Really?
Yes. So it was both of these. One of the bindings, and I think it was a belt, but I can't tell you for sure right now because I didn't take those notes.
Right.
Had his DNA on it. They matched it to DNA in his garbage can on a pizza crust.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's not a doctor, is he?
No, he's an architect.
Did he live near where this happened?
Yes.
Like,
There is a
sounds
doctor that was a good suspect in some of the documentaries.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
But they went toward Rex, and because even with burner phones, they knew he was one of the last people that called several of the prostitutes.
Gotcha.
And we've had to use genetic. We haven't even identified all 11 bodies.
Right.
But,
Man.
Yeah. It's horrible. Horrible. But
that's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
So what he's awaiting trial.
He is awaiting trial on those 3. He's probably at least 10 of the 11.
Wow.
And then there's something interesting. He used to spend a lot of time in Atlantic City.
Is there a string of murders there that are unsolved?
There absolutely are.
Oh.
And they were disposed of similarly.
Wow.
So, and he would visit strip clubs.
Yeah.
And hire the strippers, for side work.
Right.
I guess that would be the nicest way to call it.
Yeah.
Hire them for a little side work.
Yeah.
And, they... Yeah. So there's a good chance that even after... Because you don't start doing this at 40.
No.
There's just no way.
He was just getting away with it for a very long time.
And the getting away with it may have been part of why he started dumping them there. Like, he got comfortable.
He could have been in, if he lived near there, maybe the police, maybe he knew him. Maybe they were in cahoots in some kind of way.
Maybe. I don't know. It's just so weird. And this guy had a wife, had an architecture firm, he was a hunter, so nobody was suspicious of his weapons and tools.
And being away from the house.
Right. And
if he's going to parties where there's prostitutes, or he's going to Atlantic City. I don't know
if he went to the parties where there were prostitutes.
Well, he's going to Atlantic City and
stripping, going to strip clubs.
I would think his wife would question his whereabouts at some point, but it sounds like if he was a hunter, he could just say he was off hunting. And sometimes he also had a footprint, I think, in South Carolina. He and his family had hunting property there. Very similar kind of landscape on the coast of South Carolina. There's a lot of marsh to get rid of bodies, and so they're looking at that. Wow. And
he was just he's a giant. He's huge, like an ogre looking huge.
Yeah, like 6'5" or something.
And his victims were all like barely 5 foot tall.
Yeah.
All his victims were 100 pounds, pretty much. No more than 115. He was not giving anybody a chance that was going to fight him. And one of the strippers that I've seen an interview from, she was like, he came in here and he would ask me like once a month to go on a date with him after, over and over and over again, and I never felt comfortable. She says, but I left work for a little while and I came back and I was a couple of pounds heavier. She had a baby. And he started hitting on other girls. He says, I don't think it was the baby. I think I was a little bigger.
I weighed more.
And that's just creepy.
That is, yeah.
So that's another one we need to really keep an eye on. We probably won't see further full prosecutions if he gets convicted of these 3.
Yeah, I could see that. But at least if they could somehow give the families some
knowledge, if we can say, okay, we have DNA here, and we have cell phone data that he was parked right beside your loved one in Atlantic City.
Right.
Yeah, 10 years ago or whatever. I don't know how they're getting the DNA and the telephone stuff. These bodies started popping up. Well, started getting placed there in 96. We're talking.
Yeah. Well, most people didn't have cell phones.
I'm sure prostitutes did.
Maybe so. Yeah.
That's a tax write-off at that point. This kind of prostitute, because
Yeah.
they're working,
They're escorts.
yeah, they're working back page ads and Craigslist ads and
Yeah.
stuff like that. They're not street walking.
Right.
And they are driving from the
They had a
city.
driver. I remember
Yeah.
that part of the story, that they always had drivers.
Mm-hmm. Because that works as like your bouncer.
Right.
Yeah, it's not just a driver, it's your security detail.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, that case went real deep, and that kind of pulls everything in from better DNA collection
Mm-hmm.
to getting the word out to political pressure based on shows like ours pushing to the cell phone data, which I didn't pull up one that was just solved on cell phone data.
Yeah.
Because that's like whenever we just had the
That's-
Murdaugh case.
Well, I feel like the cell phone is just a piece of the puzzle to help you in the right direction. I don't know that they would completely get a conviction on just that.
Yeah, but they're getting with your health apps on your cell phones.
Yeah.
They can see how much you're moving, how fast you're moving, what
True.
direction. They are seeing,
Yeah.
like they were able to blow Alec Murdaugh's entire alibi out of the water
Yeah.
because of his cell phone data.
Yeah.
Oh, you were napping right now? I'm seeing that you were moving at 15 miles an hour when you were supposed to be napping. That's a pretty
Right.
fast nap.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a crazy case too.
Yeah,
that
that's a
one.
crazy case.
Very, very cool information.
Yeah, 2023 was a big year for getting justice in this country.
That's awesome.
Okay, and that's
Thank
pretty
you.
much all I brought y'all today.
Awesome. This is going to come out on the day we are having our meet and greet.
Mm-hmm.
So if y'all are listening to this in the morning, there's still plenty of time to get to Sugarfield Spirits in Gonzales. You can Google them and find the address, or you can send me a message, or you can go on our Facebook group, the Gritsters, the Effers. We get called many things. The Family, Friends, and Fans page, and just post, hey, I got a question, where's it located, or whatever info you need. We're going to be there from 3 to 6 on January the 13th.
All right, yeah, I can't wait to see you.
I know it's going to be so fun. Colin, are you going to be there? He's going to be there. You'll get to meet Colin. I think a lot of our co-hosts will be there. So it'll
Oh,
be,
that's great. 'cause
Yeah.
we don't all get in the same place.
not very often.
Not very often. The occasional party, but that's it.
That's it. Yep. All right. So is there anything else I'm thinking? No new Patreon this week,
Okay.
but just go give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That'll help us. You got to say something in your rating. You can't just give us 5 stars. They don't count it.
They don't count it. Yeah.
And I think that's it.
All right, then I
All
guess.
right. We love y'all, and we're going to let Zydeco Mike take us out.